Hi, my name is Ezina. I'm an incoming first year medical student, and this video is going to be about my medical school application journey, and it will hopefully provide a bit of a timeline and a bit of advice and a bit of clarity for students who are making decisions about applying to medical school. So let's start with GCSEs. So GCSEs are obviously the exams that you sit at the end of year 11. And I think in terms of a medical school application, they might provide a bit of an academic foundation. However, they're not the make or break of an application. So me personally, I did really well my GCSEs. I had 9 9s, an 8 and an A. So I'll put my grades on the screen here. However, you do not need perfect GCSE grades or even near perfect GCSE grades to secure a place in medical school. Every single school rates it differently, and I think like the key word is strategic. You want to be strategic about which schools you're applying to, and you just want to make sure that you're applying to your strengths. If you see me looking down a bit, it's because I've got some notes in this little book. Okay, so you've done your GCSEs, you start year 12. You at this point, I think you want to start looking for a bit of work experience and some volunteering to, I guess, add to your application to write about your personal statement. So for me personally, I did a day shadowing a pharmacist. I did about a week shadowing a GP, about a week shadowing a consultant neonatologist, which I think was my favourite thing. However, the most useful thing was actually volunteering on a trauma and orthopedics ward in my local hospital. And I talked about that a lot in my personal statement, in my interviews. I think volunteering, it shows like empathy, which is a really big thing that medical schools are looking for in students. It shows that you're willing to give up your time for other people. So I highly recommend getting that. And I think it's kind of easier to get than work experience anyway. I also did some access programs in year 12. So I did Target Oxbridge, which I think is like quite popular. Like a lot of people know about it. It's for kind of high achieving Black students in year 12 applying to university. I highly recommend that. They gave me some great support throughout. And I also applied and got into CHAS, which stands for Cambridge Higher Aspirations Scheme, which was kind of unique to the Cambridge College that I applied to, Cornwall and Keys. Okay, another thing that I did and that other people do to strengthen their applications are super curricular activities. So these kind of extending yourself beyond just your A levels, and I highly recommend doing those in year 12 as well. For me, I did a MOOC, a massive open online course on dementia. I did an essay competition about diagnostics and medicine that was ran by Gonville and Keys. I did some reading. So I read kind of the I Want to Be a Doctor, those kind of classic books. This Is Going to Hurt, Do No Harm. I actually do recommend those books. They are really good. And I did an EPQ on Alzheimer's disease. And I think an EPQ is great to do because it kind of shows that you're interested in that research aspect of medicine. It shows like kind of planning and organisation skills. So I definitely do that. However, for me personally, I did find it to be a bit of a struggle to complete because I was kind of writing my EPQ the same summer that I was sitting and revising for the UCAT. So it was quite a lot that summer, but I think it was actually worth it. And my medical school actually gave me a reduced offer from AAA to AAB because I achieved an A star in EPQ. So yeah, go EPQ. And then I guess your next big thing that you do in year 12 are your year 12 mocks. So these are important. Most medical schools, pretty much all medical schools, have a standard offer of at least AAA. So yeah, just make sure that you're revising hard so that you can kind of hit that and then keep your, as many options open for you as possible. My school didn't do a mock for maths. I just sat AS maths and I ended up getting an A. So I was reached an A star. And then my biology and chemistry mocks also in school also went well. So I ended up being predicted 3 A stars. So the next part of your application, once you've got your year 12 mocks out the way, is the UCAT. Now, the UCAT for me was kind of one of the most challenging and stressful part of the application. It is kind of like a notoriously difficult test, but I think with the right amount of preparation, you can get a competitive score. So for me personally, I prepared for about 8 weeks and I used Medify. I didn't use anything else, just Medify, because they have so many resources on there, kind of everything that you need to do well in it, really. And in the end, I got a top 8% score for my year, so I was quite happy with that. My score was 2,980 band 3, although I know the system has changed now. They've removed abstract reasoning. I'm really jealous, actually. But that's what I ended up getting. The band 3 in situational judgment, of course, I wasn't that happy with, but then I just had to apply strategically to schools that wouldn't penalise me too much for having a band 3 in the SJT. Right, so then the universities I applied to were Cambridge, Bristol, Sheffield, and Southampton for medicine, and I also applied to Manchester for biomedical sciences. Having a fifth option, I don't think it's like necessary. I just think if you know that you want to study medicine and become a doctor, then just apply to 4 schools. But then I guess it is nice to just have that like backup option if it doesn't all go to plan, or if you just kind of want to have 5 universities on the application like everyone else, which is kind of why I applied to Manchester. But yes, okay, so you've done your UCAT and then you want to start writing your personal statement. So this is kind of an unpopular opinion, but I don't think the personal statement kind of matters. It does matter, but not as much as kind of everyone says that it does. So some universities are not even going to read your personal statement. Other ones are going to use it very heavily. So for example, Sheffield didn't read my personal statement, Southampton used it very heavily. So it does matter in some sense, but it doesn't need to be this like perfect, flawless piece of writing. I did enjoy writing it. I did a lot of drafts as well, so it did take up a lot of my time, but you know, I mean, I think a good thing to do in your personal statement is kind of make like a story, like show, I think a phrase that was used is academic exploration, and like why you do certain things. So if I give an example, I talked about volunteering on a trauma and orthopedics ward, which had a lot of elderly patients who had dementia, and how that dementia was kind of linked to them being in the hospital with a fall or with a fracture. So yeah, volunteering. And then I did a MOOC on dementia because of what I saw at volunteering. And then I did an EPQ on epigenetic treatment for Alzheimer's disease. So kind of showing that process can be quite a cool thing to do in there. But yeah, it just needs to be good. It needs to be balanced. Mention work experience if you're applying to medicine. But yeah, it's not a make or break aspect of the application in my opinion. Okay, so I submitted my UCAS. I actually don't remember. I'll put some dates of interviews and stuff, and when I submitted my UCAS in the video description. But I got some interviews. So my first interview I received was from Cambridge. Then I received an interview like very soon after from Sheffield, and then I had to wait a while, but I eventually received an interview from Southampton. I was actually rejected by Bristol pre-interview because of my UCAS score, which at the time I was a bit annoyed with because historically I would have had a high enough score to be invited to interview, but that year it was raised. So yeah, medicine is a very, very competitive course, guys. Okay, in terms of preparing for my interviews then, I basically made a Notion page called interviews, and then I would like make notes about different things. In terms of finding resources to make notes from, I use websites like the UKCAT people and the Medic portal. They have loads of articles and loads of questions on there. And I'd also film myself answering questions. And I think that kind of helped with like delivery, because I guess when you write something down, it's just not the same as actually like saying it out loud, which is something that you obviously need to practice for an interview. I also attended a mock interview day in London that kind of gave me a bit of a taste of kind of what it's like. It was an MMI style, so kind of moving around all those stations. I found that quite fun actually. And then my school supported me by doing like a mock Cambridge interview. Okay, so in terms of my decisions, I got two offers from Sheffield and from Southampton, and I was unfortunately rejected by Cambridge in January. So then why did I choose the University of Sheffield over the University of Southampton then? I went to open days and offer holder days, and I think kind of visiting both cities, I just liked the vibe of Sheffield better. And I think the rankings of the two are like pretty similar. I think Sheffield may be slightly better, but actually rankings change all the time. So don't just apply to or pick universities based off of rankings, unless it's like Oxbridge or something, because they are like shifting and changing all the time. But yeah, I think just in terms of like my reflections from the whole process, I learned a lot kind of through like doing my super curriculars. I learned a lot about myself, and I think that if you're applying to medicine, just kind of make sure that you always have a plan, know what you're doing, know when you're doing it, keep on top of dates, do research about medical schools, and kind of just stay positive throughout it all, because it can be quite grueling at parts. But yeah, that's kind of it really. If anyone wants any advice about GCSEs, about A levels, I forgot to say, but I actually achieved 3A stars in my A levels, biology, chemistry, and maths. So if anyone wants any advice about that, about writing personal statement, maybe, yeah, just any aspect of the application, I'd be happy to talk more about that. But yeah, I will see you guys later.